Hey, this is John Block from Speaker Venture, and this is your video that is your accompanying training for this, your template for Signature Talk. So the best way to go through this video is to have this printed out, and we're going to go through this one part at a time. So first off, this is our Bible when it comes to Speaker Venture. This is the same template that I've used to earn consistently $20,000 per month or more through 3 speaking gigs per month, sometimes fewer than that. Whether it's a room with just 5 people in the room, I've used it to generate $20,000 plus in revenue, and 90 people in the room, much more than that. So it's a beat-by-beat template that we're going to be going through that our Speaker Venture members have used as well to generate $10,000 or more per speaking gig. It's pretty juicy stuff. The design of the Signature Talk is really for one purpose. It is there to fill your schedule with one-on-one appointments, or as we call them, magic sessions. So this is not for selling from stage, it's not to get opt-ins on your list, it's to set up one-on-one appointments. And this is designed to maximize the amount of one-on-one appointments, or the very least interest forms if you have an application process, let's say. People who want your one-on-one appointment by the end of the Signature Talk. Okay, we call this your cash machine. That's how important this is. So without further ado, let's dive in, and we're going to go through this starting with the talk title. So, talk title, it reads Specific Audience to Boat to Pleasure Island. So what this means is that your specific audience is the group of people you serve. So in my case, entrepreneurs. The boat is what you actually do to serve them. So in my case, it's public speaking, and then the pleasure island is the benefit that they get from it. So in my case, it's 10 times their income. So if I were to take just those 3 words, entrepreneur, public speaking, 10 times your income, then I have the semblance of a talk title. So in my case, my Signature Talk is called How to Use Public Speaking to 10 Times Your Business. Okay? I don't need to say entrepreneur's business because it's implied already with the business. But we can do this, say, with a specific audience of mothers. Mothers, how to use financial planning to pay for your kids' college, or have enough left over for retirement plus a whole lot more, right? You have the semblance of a title. Or another one, say, business owners use Facebook marketing to generate more leads than ever. Okay? You want to hit those beats as much as possible. And again, if there's some kind of redundancy with saying entrepreneur and business, then take out probably entrepreneur. But that really is what has to be there, is the pleasure island for sure. And then tie that into some like boat of like what's the thing you actually do that makes you unique to actually get them to Pleasure Island, and then touch upon who the audience is so that they know it's for them. Okay? Lots of fun ways to play with this, but I like the how-to model because then it really positions you as the mentor, the one they're coming to learn from. So the people who are coming to your live event are ones who are in that mode of learning from you as the mentor. Okay, that's talk title. Introduction. You hand the speaker bio to the person introducing you. So the audience has made up their mind within the first 7 seconds whether they know, like, or trust you. This is the way we're built as humans, is to form these snap judgments. So it can feel like a lot of pressure if you have 7 seconds to establish that know, like, and trust factor. Now, real quick about that, sometimes an audience might have like a knee-jerk reaction. Like, I know I've had this in the audience where I don't know if I like this person. Maybe they come off arrogant or something within that first 7 seconds. But then as I get to know them, I really see his or her heart, and I really warm up to that person. But for the most part, why dig a hole for yourself in the beginning if you don't have to? That's really what the speaker bio is for, is that before you even come on, really within the first millisecond of that 7 seconds, they've already decided that they know, like, and trust you. And that's what the speaker bio does. So we have a basic format for the speaker bio, which is really about positioning yourself and saying why you're so passionate about this work, and something about client testimonials, like the positive results you've gotten. Those are some of the key things you want to have. But you always want to be introduced before you get on stage, because that positions you as an expert. You want to have that Ed McMahon, for any of you Carson fans of the past know what I'm talking about. It positions you as the big deal in the room. And the audience should really have this experience of, I'm so lucky that I get to, not I have to, but I get to spend the next hour with this person. Once you hit the stage, then you'll start with 2 enrolling questions. So raise your hand if you want to, and fill that in with something they desire. Examples are increase your income, have great clear skin, whatever is the pleasure island thing that's drawn them to your event. So this would be what your talk title references probably. So in my case, it's how to use public speaking to 10 times your income. So mine would be either raise your hand if you want to have a breakthrough in public speaking, or raise your hand if you want to 10 times your income. Okay, pretty straightforward. The second question would be raise your hand if you want to, and then you build upon the first question. So in my case, it would be raise your hand if you want to 10 times your income and have more fun and ease than ever in your business. Or raise your hand if you want to use public speaking, have a breakthrough in public speaking, and be more confident and loving and have greater sales than ever. Something to that effect, right? So these are knee-jerk responses. These are not questions that should really cause your audience to have to think, like, do I want that or not? No, it's like a comedy scene in a movie. Think of a really funny scene from a movie where you just crack up laughing without even having to think about it. It's that kind of knee-jerk response should be, hell yes, I want that. Yeah, that's me. And this really affirms to your audience that you get me as the speaker. You get me, I'm in the right room. And that's really important for building up that know, like, and trust factor that we mentioned. So we move into welcome and acknowledgement. This is where you'll say who you are and your what do you do statement that kind of affirms who you are and your positioning, and brands your name and what you're up to with them. And then take a moment to acknowledge your host if you're a guest speaker, and the audience. So typically acknowledgement of the audience would sound something like, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know you have a lot of places that you could be right now, so the fact you've chosen to be here, I don't take lightly, and my commitment is to provide extraordinary value to you, or something like that. That's a very generic way of saying it. I personally like to really feel into an audience and think, how can I acknowledge them in a way they've never been acknowledged before? So for instance, when I speak to an audience of speakers, I'll say, thank you for being the visionary leaders of the planet. Thank you for stepping up and breaking through whatever fear you have and being your own version of Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela or Oprah Winfrey, because those are the people who transformed the planet through the power of public speaking, and you're here to have your own version of that, right? And that's a more unique view that I bring to it in terms of how I relate to my audience. And anytime, guys, you can get to a more unique essence of why you're the one who is meant to serve this audience, the more you can set yourself apart from everyone else, not from this like heady space, but really from a soulful space. You'll just call forth your people in such a dynamic way. They'll know they have to work with you, and that will trump any money or time concerns. They'll just know that you're the one. They'll find a way to make it work, and I know that's what you want. Okay, so acknowledgement of your audience, that's not a throwaway thing. Really take that as an opportunity to make that deep connection with them, and they'll know that, wow, you see me and you might be the one that I'm meant to work with. Then you'll frame up what you're going to get and why it's important. So this affirms why they're here. Say the talk title again, in my case, how to use public speaking at 10 times your business, and why that's important. So how that might sound is, a lot of business owners have not mastered the power of public speaking. Consequently, they leave so much money on the table. And so if you're here, maybe that's you, or maybe you have a fear of public speaking, you haven't even done it yet, or you have done it, but you haven't gotten the results you wanted. And the reality is that public speaking is by far the most lucrative way to generate clients. There is no ceiling on the amount of income that you can generate from this, and it's also the most heartfelt, beautiful, transformational experience that you can have with other people, certainly in the business context. So that's a bit about why it's important. And this is just further enrolling them of like, hey, I'm on the edge of my seat. This is a big deal. I really better pay attention. At that point, I recommend doing some audience engagement because you're about to get into your personal story. So having some audience engagement, which could sound something like, who would be willing to share what brought you here today? Now, since a lot of people might be shy, I like to say turn to a partner first and share back and forth. And then that kind of gets them in a more conversational tone. Even then, some people might be shy after they've done that to open it up, but then you'll invariably get one or two people. I've never been in a room where you wouldn't get at least one or two people who would be happy to share like what brought them here today. And this really creates a commonality. A more next level way of doing it is really accessing that pain island or pleasure island. And that's a key point that we dive into in the Speaker Venture live event, where the basis for enrollment, guys, is really about pain island and pleasure island. You always want to be playing on one of those two spaces. Either you're speaking to their pain island or you're speaking to the pleasure island. Another way of looking at this is what is right now and what could be. And from speeches given by Steve Jobs or Martin Luther King, you notice that there's always this balance of like speaking to what is right now and what could be. So in your audience's case, it could be, what are you dealing with in your online marketing that's just really driving you nuts right now? If your workshop's on online marketing, or if it's on LinkedIn, what bothers you about your LinkedIn profile, and give people a voice about it, and then getting them present to like, hey, enough is enough already, and this is costing me a lot. The other way to do it that might feel better to you is more of a pleasure island way, which is, if we stick with the online marketing example, what would a breakthrough for you in your online marketing allow you to do? Right? Someone might say, oh wow, that would allow me to never worry about money again. I could like automate my lifestyle in so many ways, and then just not have to chase so much, and then I could use that additional time to be with my kids. And either whichever one you go with, really allow yourself to dream fully with that person. Be authentic. This isn't just like take, sharing, nod, and clap kind of thing. You want to do that, plus really open your heart further and get into their audience's world. This is a time for them to really speak about what's most important to them, and we really always want to honor that with the deepest reverence and love. I want to note, before we get into the personal story, that the order for everything we just covered, really everything up until the personal story, you can mix and match as you see fit. A lot of times people ask, well, how am I supposed to remember all this? And here's what I say to that. You're much better off omitting half of this, and the part that you remember well, delivering that well, versus trying to get through all of this and only remembering half of it. Okay? By far, you're much better off taking the parts that you know, hey, I can knock this out of the park. I can just take the part of, say, the enrolling questions, and then say audience engagement, or whatever parts you believe would be best serving your audience. If you're just starting out, I do recommend that you try to stick to this template, and then maybe you will practice this more and you'll be a lot more efficient. Go through this in advance. You can have your notes on a music stand ahead of time and go through it, but then you have it there as reference. Another reason that we do audience engagement there is that if you can just tell yourself, all right, really 2 enrolling questions, welcome acknowledgement, what you're going to get, why it's important, and just have those like 3 things, rule of 3s, easy to remember, those 3 things, then that will hold me over until I get to audience engagement. You have those 3 things in your head, have a sense of how you're going to start out, so you feel like you start strong, go to audience engagement, and then you can kind of take a break, let's say if it is a paired share or writing exercise, and you can look over your notes. I've done that trick many, many, many times, okay? So that's the piece on the opening. So everything else I pretty strongly recommend that you stick to with a template, but up to that point, the order is less important. Now we get into my favorite part, which is the personal story. The personal story is literally worth gold. The personal story, when done right, allows your audience to feel by the end of it, I have to work with you just 15 minutes into your presentation. I don't know why, but it's hooked me on an emotional level. I know that you're the one. Really, the personal story communicates to your audience, I know what you're going through and I can help you. Okay, so here's how that works. You'll ask, can I tell you about myself? That's a small thing, but oftentimes if a speaker does not ask for permission and then starts talking about themselves, it can become self-indulgent. And the world has enough arrogant speakers who just got on stage because they love hearing the sound of their own voice, that it can be a turnoff. I know for me as an audience member, it can be a turnoff. So a very simple thing like, can I tell you about myself? It reframes that and makes it about service, right? And I also might add, I know that when I see a speaker, so I'll say, can I tell you about myself? And I say, yeah, I know whenever I see a speaker, I wonder, who is this guy and why should I care, right? So that makes it a service to the audience, if you can say, this is why I'm telling you about me. Okay, then the structure from there is high point, low point, turning point, high point. So the first high point will be basically ripped from your speaker bio. It's going to position yourself again to say like, hey, I'm a big deal in your world. I have the life that you would like to have. Now, if you don't have the life yet that you believe your audience want to have, then highlight some part of your current situation that your audience will look to and say, wow, it'd be great to have that. You always want to pick a niche that you're at least one step ahead of. And that one step that you're ahead of them, that's what you want to frame as, here's where I am right now. If you're not yet one step ahead of your niche, then pick a different niche. But this is what the first high point must do, is create this sense of, wow, they're ahead of me and I want what they have. Okay, so I'll just model that real quick. It would sound something like, I have an amazing life. I earn over $20,000 per month through my Signature Talk. I travel all over the country speaking, and I've been given awards for my contribution to conscious business on the planet, and so on, right? That's what it would sound like. And then I like to share something personal, like I'm happily married and all that, because this creates more trust, especially if I found that as a man on stage, if you can have something that's more in the feminine energy, like a relationship type thing, it really softens it and makes you come off less like a arrogant male authority figure. Even if you're not really that personality, it's just nice to hear. Even any audience member would appreciate hearing that. Okay, so the low point, this is the most important part of your personal story. It reads here, paint a vivid picture mirroring their current pain island struggle, only you had it much worse than them. So think of it this way. Your audience has an urgent problem that's led them to come to your workshop. So we'll use the example of the internet marketing. Their Facebook ads, LinkedIn, and so on is just not working. So they've come here to this workshop to learn from you on how they can get their internet marketing to actually serve them. So that means your low point should really be that you are as far removed from being a master at internet marketing as possible. That you are a technophobe, that you had tried all these different things and just given up at some point. You threw your hands up and said, I can't do this, right? Because you want to speak to the worst case scenario in the room and be even worse off than that person. An example I give is if you are at, say, leading a depression recovery workshop and you say to your audience that I was so depressed that for a whole week I just sat on the couch watching Netflix and eating Cheetos, and you have someone in your audience who is so depressed they try to kill himself 3 times, what is the audience member going to think of you on stage? They'll probably think, you don't know what you're talking about, quit wasting my time, and they'll probably leave right there. I know I would if I were that person. So you, as a speaker, have to be matching your audience's urgent problem and really write out what are the worst possible things that they could be dealing with in terms of mindset, in terms of circumstances, really inner and outer. So in the case of entrepreneurs, what that would sound like is having no money, and this is how I frame my personal story, is having no money and having to get a crappy day job. In my view, that's pretty much the worst thing that an entrepreneur could have to deal with. That's from an outer standpoint. And from an inner standpoint, I touch upon feeling like a failure, a loser. I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. It's for other people, not for me, right? This is what you have to hit, is really what is the worst nightmare scenario, the urgent problem played out on a very big scale, okay? Really dive into that pool and swim in it. This is some of my favorite stuff when it comes to coaching the delivery of your personal story. Really take your time to be with your audience with this. It is so rich, guys, and again, always come from your heart. This is not manipulative. This is just really authentically sharing and opening your heart, and that's what people want to connect with. So we can't leave them on that note. That's why we go to the turning point. So what turned it all around, which is typically the solution you provide. So typically that sounds something like, and then I hired a mentor. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but it works because you are a mentor for the audience. So it stands to reason that if you're sharing that what made all the difference in your life was hiring a mentor when you went to a workshop, then your audience will relate to this of, hey, I've had this urgent problem that you just spoke of, therefore I should hire a mentor myself and get out of this urgent problem. It's not the best, I want to say, but it works. And until you have something better, go with this. And in fact, I still use this myself. It's just the most apples to apples to meet with your audience. So I would say for simplicity's sake, there was a time when you invested financially in yourself, you hired a mentor, got support. That's what your turning point should be. And that's what totally transformed your life. Okay? So that's the turning point, and then that brings us up to the second high point, which is a represencing of your amazing in life and really delving into why you're so passionate about this work. So how that transition sentence will sound like would be, and that's why I'm so passionate about this work, is so that you don't have to go through what I went through, okay? So that mothers never have to go through what I went through, so that entrepreneurs never have to go through what I went through. Okay, speak specifically to this group and why you're showing up for them. You can share a little bit about your global vision as well, because that's also inspiring and enrolling. And my vision is to have 1 million speaker entrepreneurs transforming 10 million lives, something to that effect. Your audiences are your partners. I really see them as your partners more so than they are your clients. They're your partners in creating the transformation that you're here to spread. Whatever your great vision is for your life, for your business, your audience your clients are your partners in that, right? The term client is really just like a subset of the word partner, I believe. Okay, so when done right, smoking hot, your audience will know that they have to work with you, and these will become some of your most loyal, high-paying clients. Then we move into intention, and this is what you're going to gain tangibly by the end of the talk. These two sections are, I'd say, a bit more optional, but they tend to help your talk a lot. You're going to be better off with this than without this, okay? It's not the end of the world if you skip this. It is, figuratively speaking, the end of the world if you skip your personal story. like you've just killed your signature talk. But these next pieces, if you have to cut something for time, this would be it. Now that said, this is really important for, look at intention first, why that's important. It's really twofold, what you're going to gain tangibly by the end of the talk. So this really says, hey, you're going to get incredible value through being here. And in this area of internet marketing, of financial planning, whatever your thing is. You're going to get these key insights and you can use forever, alter your lives. This is really a place from congruency of, hey, I honor you for coming and I want you to get great value whether we end up working together or not. It just feels better that way. The second intention is that you really have to plant your offer. Now this is really, really, really key. And I would say this is essential. You have to do it at some point or not. You can do it at the second high point or whatever, but you have to do this where you make it clear that this is just not an information session, because a lot of people do events that are frankly not business-minded enough. They'll just deliver information and then think, oh, well, people will work with me. And that totally doesn't work, and it debunks the whole design of a signature talk. It's not a signature talk. The signature talk is designed to maximize the revenue from the audience, and so that's why planting the offer is so important. You're going to say, by the end of this talk, you'll have an opportunity to gain further support beyond just the today. So I like planting the name of what the package is. So it could be, in my case, Speaker Venture. You have an opportunity to learn about Speaker Venture and see if it's something that you want to do. Or your program could be called High-End Profits Forever, right? You have an opportunity to learn about High-End Profits Forever. I'm big on hot names. It's more exciting and it gives them something to look forward to versus saying, you hear about how we can work together. It just falls flatter, and I think you can feel the difference between the two. So you want to plant the offer so that your audience doesn't feel like they've been ambushed by the end. What we really want to avoid is this sense of, oh, here it comes now, here's the offer, which there might be some cynical people in the audience who, I just want the content, I don't want to have to sit through your offer. Those people are not going to be your clients anyway, most likely, but even so, some of those could be transformed, and it just works best overall for everyone if you let them know in advance that there's going to be an offer made at the end, and always come from a place of service. Remember, any sales scenario is fundamentally about service. It's not about you, it's about them. So rather than leaving you hanging at the end, my intention is to share with you about Speaker Venture and see how we can work together, or see how that can serve you beyond just this one talk today. Something like that. Okay, good. Here was Journey Outline. This is an opportunity to re-emphasize where you're at right now and where you could be. So you kind of touched upon that a little bit during the audience engagement, but you could say again, so if you're here right now, this is where you might be with the internet marketing. You've been trying these things, you could write it out, make it a bit more visual, and it's not working, and then have people kind of say, yeah, I hear that, oh, I tried that, oh, that drives me nuts, and then get people into that kind of energy. And then you could say, but here's what's possible. You can have your internet marketing automated and have like the leads showing up for you and so on and so on. And then you really create a sizable gap between Pain Island and Pleasure Island. The reason that people don't buy is, well, one of the reasons, I suppose, I would say like, the two biggest reasons, I'll put it to you this way, is one, they don't know, like, and trust you, right? That's the first. But then second, of equal importance, is that the value has not been presented. The gap between Pain Island, where they are right now, and how much that sucks, and where they could be, which is where their life and business could be, and why that's so awesome, has not been clearly presented. Only when those two places are clearly presented is there a reason to get on the boat and go with you to Pleasure Island, right? Take that next step with you, right? Too often times, what we offer to people can land as useful but not essential, or interesting but not I gotta have it. And this is how you really break through that, is making that gap so painfully evident of like, hey, this is where you are right now, and I'm going to call you out on this. I'm not here to play nice. I'm here to tell you the truth. This is where you're at right now, and it sucks. And again, this doesn't need to come off like arrogant criticism. This is really from service. Like, I'm here to call you out. And this is really where, if you're a coach, treat them like how you would your actual clients. You're not there to play nice, you're here to tell them the truth. That's what people will respond to. Okay, so then you dive into your content. By this point, you if you have an hour-long presentation, you'll be about 20 to 25 minutes in. The content, you're going to outline the 3 key things they need to know and a high-level overview plan for how they get from Pain Island to Pleasure Island. Okay? So in my case, the 3 secrets that you need to know to get from this place of I'm bombing on stage, not making any money from public speaking, or not as much money as I could, to I'm thriving, I got my cash machine, my signature talk rules, right? Well, I'll speak to that more in a second, but public speaking works for me is the point. The 3 key secrets that I say is that 1, you need to have a signature talk. 2, you have to have the speaking events that you are a part of. And 3 is that you have to be plugged into a speaker community for uplift and networking and resources and speaking gig opportunities and so on. Okay, so these tend to be chronological. Why is because the mind can wrap itself around it more easily. Again, we're not asking your audience to think so much. This is really should go down as smooth as possible. It should make sense from the very beginning. This is not a space to be challenging their conventional ways of thought. That said, it should go against some ways that they have been doing it to begin with. So for instance, the signature talk piece, as I go into that first secret, they might have this thought of, oh, you might think, this is how I'll say it, you might be thinking, I want to be authentic on stage, and I just want to open my heart and the right people will show up, right? Anyone else ever think that? I've certainly been there myself, but what I know to be true is that results will be erratic. They certainly were in my case, and I was not able to get the traction that I wanted in my business, nor positively impact lives. And do you want traction in your business and to positively impact lives? Yes, right? And so just that right there kind of reframes a common thing, a common mistake they might be doing, and now what they could be doing instead that's going to work a lot better. So you want to do that for each of your 3 things. So show the commonly held misconception about it. So in my case, signature talk, I believe the commonly held misconception is I want to be authentic and not a robot when it comes to be on stage. I want to express myself that way. So that's what I have to debunk, because that's what the audience is going to relate to. Then show the truth, and then show how it works. And then I'll say a little bit about what goes into a signature talk. The key thing with each of these is that this really be a high level